out the studs in your car or your truck. After watching this video, you will be able to go out and fix your car using common hand tools just like these. All you need for this job is a jack, and jack stands for when you're going to be lifting the car off the ground. You're going to need a socket set for when you're going to be removing the lug nuts from the car. Your typical wheel spanner, in this case, this is not the original wheel spanner for this car. This is a socket welded onto a piece of metal. A screwdriver, we could use a screwdriver to pry off the drum from the hub. Of course, you're going to need the studs that we are going to be using today, a metal wire brush to scrape off the rust from the hub. This is a drum brake that I have with me. I have an awesome trick to show you guys to install the studs using this. And of course, the last thing you're going to need is the car that we're going to be working on. This is a 1997 Toyota Hiace, and with that being said, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is to lift the car off the ground, but obviously we need to consider safety. Make sure you block off the front and the rear of the tire to prevent the car from rolling. In this case, I already removed the tire, which gave us access to a braking system right here. And a good safety measure is to put the tire underneath the car like this to prevent the car from falling, just in case something happens, something bumps the jack stand fails, the car won't fall onto the ground. In this case, I will ask you to lower your parking brake, because I'm going to explain what I'm going to be doing with this drum brake in the next step. So be sure to lower that parking brake and put your car in first. If it's an automatic, make sure you put the car in park, but lower the parking brake. Before I show you guys how to remove the drum, I thought it would be cool if you guys knew how the drum brake works. This is a typical drum brake setup with two brake shoes off to the side, a wheel cylinder at the center, a hub, and the stud that we are going to be working on. The main reason I tell you guys to ensure the parking brake is turned off, it's because when you step on the brakes, these brake shoes move outwards, and when you engage the parking brake, the brake shoes move outwards with it, so it's going to hold onto the drum, preventing you from removing it from the hub. We want to remove the drum brake from the hub. In this case, if you leave the parking brake on, you're not going to, because these brake shoes are going to be contacting the braking surface on the brake drum. You want to remove the brake drum, and you're not going to be able to do it if the parking brake is all the way up. If you're going to be doing it, you're going to require a lot of force, which could destroy this braking surface, and it could destroy your brake drum. Make sure you lower your parking brake, because these brake shoes need to compress inwards in order for the brake drum to come out. So now that you know what we're going to be doing, let's go ahead and remove the brake drum. This is a typical brake drum you can find in most cars, and you can see we have the studs protruding out these holes, and we have more holes on the edges of this brake drum. And many people ask me, how do you remove the brake drum? Well, two methods to remove the brake drum. One is to use a hammer just like this, and you're going to be hitting the edge of the brake drum and not the braking surface. You want to hit the edges to knock off the loose rust on the hub. In this case, you're not going to be hitting the braking surface, because this could destroy your brake drum, making it expensive. Another method is to use a 10mm bolt like this, and you're going to be threading it into holes like this to pull the drum outwards from the hub. In this case, all you need to do is to grab something like a socket, a spanner, whatever you have, thread it onto these holes, and it's going to be pulling your brake drum outwards towards you. So be sure to tighten this a little at a time, on the left side, on the right side, or on the top, on the bottom. Make sure it goes in straight and not at an angle like this. In this case, I'm going to be using a hammer and not the method that I showed you using the bolts. So make sure you hit using very heavy hits to knock off the loose rust. And the brake drum should come off just like this, and you can see the loose rust we have on here was removed. And this is what I'm talking about. This part adheres to the hub, making it difficult to remove. Hitting this will make it so much easier to take this off. So now with the brake drum off, let's continue with the process. So what you're seeing right now is the brake setup without the drum brake on, and these are the studs we're going to be working on today. These two studs are not okay. They keep on stripping, and every time I use the different nut, they keep on experiencing resistance to the nuts, and they don't drive in well. So I'm going to be changing these two out. You want to make sure the thread pattern is okay. In this case, I'm noticing some little bit of wear, but the rest look okay. If you get signs like this, maybe you have a broken stud, maybe you have studs that are worn out, they're stripping, be sure to change out the entire system of the studs. It could be 8, it could be 4, it could be 2. sometimes they could be 5. In this case, I'm going to be replacing 3 of them, the top ones, because that is all I could find. But as soon as I'm done working on this video, I'll go out and change out the other 3. So the main method you're going to be using to remove them is by hitting them with a hammer. You hit them towards the back of the braking system where you see the springs. That is where the base of the stud is. So you hit it this way and it should come out through the back. Make sure you hit it straight, not come out through the back just like so. This is the stud that we are going to be replacing. Make sure you continue hitting the rest of the 2 studs to remove them, and they should come out through the back. If it doesn't clear out, make sure you spin this in order to remove it. Like this space over here should be able to enable you to take this stud off. So continue hitting this straight and it should come out through the back. I have successfully removed the studs, but be prepared, you might need to use a lot of force because some of them end up being very seized. You can see how the rust holds this against the base on the hub, and it ends up getting deformed on the top part of it. So make sure you use a lot of force to drive them outwards through the back. In this case, what I'm going to be doing next is using a metal wire brush to scrape off this rust. You want to remove as much rust as possible to prevent these studs from getting stuck on the hub. Make sure you take a lot of time when scrubbing this to ensure you remove all the loose rust particles, to ensure you get an even surface or even your brake drum to adhere onto this hub. You also want to take an extra few minutes to scrape up all this rust to remove the uneven surface from your brake drum. Another thing you want to prevent is scratching this surface. You don't want to touch this surface whatsoever because I see it's rusty, but scraping this off will destroy your braking surface, which could make this brake drum get expensive to repair or buying a new one. So make sure you use a metal wire brush to scrape off all the rust from the surface. Before you install any new parts, make sure the old part looks identical to the new part. This is the stud we removed, this is the one you're going to be installing. Everything else seems the same. They're pretty much the same height, they have the same base, even the pattern on the base is the same. The only difference is this one doesn't have the threads moving all the way to the top, but this one does. But that's not going to be an issue. Remember, installation is the exact opposite of how we remove this. This goes through the back, make sure it goes in straight, and I'm going to be showing you an awesome trick on how to install this without struggling. The next thing we're going to be doing is taking our brake drum and instead of using it this way, we flip it around and put it over the studs that we are going to be installing, with the top ones being new and the bottom ones being old. And then you're going to be using the nuts by threading them onto the studs and using that tightening force to bring it from the base all the way towards the hub. And there we go, the studs are pretty much in, and the only way to confirm if these studs are seated properly is to make sure you check the back of this hub and feel for the base of the stud. If it's flush against the base of the hub, then it means it's in the correct way. Then another way to tell is by feeling how difficult it is to turn the bolt. Make sure you stop as soon as turning this becomes difficult, otherwise you'll start stripping this and you'll be doing all this work for nothing. So now let's go ahead and finish the rest of the process. The rest of this job is pretty easy. Go ahead and return the brake drum onto the braking system, return the wheel onto the car, secure the wheel using the lug nuts, return the vehicle onto the ground, and that is pretty much it for the process. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I would appreciate if you guys supported the channel by subscribing and getting the channel to 1,000 subscribers if you want to learn how to fix your car the right way in your driveway using common hand tools.